Trump victory not a mandate for radical change, top election forecaster says. Despite Donald Trump's decisive victory in the presidential election, a political scientist who developed a model that correctly predicted his sweep of battleground states warns that voters have not necessarily given the president-elect a mandate to make radical changes. In a paper released with little fanfare 3 weeks before the vote, Cornell University professor of government Peter Enns and his co-authors accurately forecast that Trump would win all 7 swing states, based on a model they built that uses state-level presidential approval ratings and indicators of economic health. In an interview with The Guardian, Enns said his model's conclusions suggest voters chose Trump not because they wanted to see his divisive policies implemented, but rather because they were frustrated with the state of the economy during Joe Biden's presidency, an obstacle Kamala Harris was not popular enough to overcome. If this election can be explained by what voters thought of Biden and Harris and economic conditions, it really goes against the notion of a mandate for major change from Trump, said Enns. If Trump was looking to maximize support, being cautious about changes that are massive changes would be what the model suggests is the optimal strategy. On the campaign trail, Trump promised norm-shattering measures to accomplish his objectives, ranging from deploying the military to carry out mass deportations of undocumented immigrants to levying trade tariffs against allies that do not cooperate with his administration. On 5 November, voters responded by giving Trump an overwhelming victory in the Electoral College and also by making him the first Republican to win the popular vote in 20 years. Both outcomes were predicted in the paper released on 15 October by Enns, Jonathan Kulner of New York University, Anusha Kumar of Yale University School of Medicine, and Julius Lagodny of German media firm El Pato. At the time, polls of the 7 swing states showed Trump and Harris tied, usually within their margin of error, signaling that the election was either's to win. Rather than focusing on the candidate's support nationwide or in the swing states, Enns and his co-authors built a model that combines 2 types of data: presidential approval ratings from all 50 states using data from Verisight, the survey firm he co-founded among others, and a Federal Reserve Bank of Philadelphia index measuring state-level real income, manufacturing, and labor market conditions. Both sets of data were compiled more than 100 days before the vote. Enns first deployed the model in the 2020 presidential election, where it correctly predicted the outcome in 49 states, with the exception of Georgia. This year, Enns and his co-authors wrote that Harris, who took over as the Democratic nominee for Biden in late July, was on track to lose both the popular vote and the Electoral College, including battleground states Michigan, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Nevada, Wisconsin, North Carolina, and Georgia. If Harris wins the election, we will not know exactly why, but we will know her victory surmounted conditions so disadvantageous to the Democratic Party that the incumbent president dropped out of the race. She will have added major momentum to the Democratic campaign and, or Trump and the Republican Party will have squandered a sizable advantage, Enns and his co-authors wrote. The forecast wound up being accurate, though, with ballot counting continuing in a few states. Trump seems set for a plurality victory in the popular vote, not the 50.3% majority they predicted. Then there's the question of whether Biden would have done better if he had stayed in the race. The 82-year-old president has been unpopular through most of his term as Americans weathered the highest inflation rate since the 1980s. Even as the labor market recovered strongly from the COVID pandemic. Biden was also dogged by concerns about his age and fitness for office, which culminated in a terrible debate performance against Trump in June that led him to drop out of the race weeks later. Given Biden's low approval ratings and economic conditions, our model forecasted less than a 1 in 10 chance of a Biden victory if he had stayed in the race, even after accounting for Harris's approval ratings, which are notably higher than Biden's. The Democrats face an uphill battle, the authors wrote. If Harris had a chance to overcome the disadvantages she entered the race with, Enns said it would have required convincing voters she would be a very different president than her boss, which it appears she failed to do. There's some economic headwinds, there's the Biden incumbency headwinds, and what I think that suggests is, given these headwinds that Harris faced, the optimal strategy would have been to differentiate herself more from Biden, Enns said. But the vice president's fate may have been sealed in the years that preceded her bid for the White House, when she failed to build the sort of public profile that would have pushed her approval ratings up to the level that she needed them to be. If she had been more popular, you can think about what could have happened to make our forecasts wrong. So the fact that 100 days out, our forecast was so accurate that really enhanced the campaign had minimal effect on the outcome, Enns said. The task at hand was to outperform the forecast, and her campaign wasn't able to do that.